Okay, let's talk about Guillain Barre. It's very terrible. No, seriously though, it sucks. Um, just to give a little bit of background, I've had Guillain Barre before, um, about 2 years ago, and it really flipped my life upside down. It came out of nowhere, literally. Um, Everything just started off when I just caught a cold, and just a regular cold, nothing out of the ordinary. I improved over, maybe 3 to 5 days, and then maybe a week later, that's when the symptoms started kicking in. So, some of the first symptoms that I noticed with this is, I would touch something like I just run my hand across, some fabric or something like a shirt or a sweater or something like that, and I would feel that it felt different. I would feel like it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like electric shocks. It just felt like a zap. It didn't feel like a normal sensation. But I didn't think anything of it. I thought, maybe it's winter time or something like that. Um, and it's just static electricity or whatever. I ignored it and moved on about my day. And so the next few symptoms that I started to see was I was actually in the gym one day, and I was doing seated rows. And, all of a sudden, when I was rowing, I just felt a very odd pain in my lower back. Again, I didn't think anything of it. I moved on about my day. But within the next couple of days, the same area I felt that pain in my back, it was completely swollen and full of fluid for some reason. So at that point, I began to kind of ask myself what's going on. But still, I'm not really throwing any alarms yet. I'm just keeping an eye on it, and I'm moving on as well. So maybe about another couple of days go by, and all of a sudden, I start to realize my vision is changing. I was actually outside walking with my wife and my son, which was something that we do all the time. And, I turned my head to the side really quickly, just like a normal action. But when I turned my head to the side, my vision just felt like my head was spinning. And all I saw was just like the world just moving until I stopped moving, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like just think of someone kind of shaking your head, literally shaking your head, and your eyes are trying to keep up. That's what was happening. So at that point, now I'm starting to kind of panic. I'm thinking something's going on. But because I've never heard of Guillain Barre, I'm not even remotely thinking that this is what I have. So I go online, which I know is something that I shouldn't do. I go online and look up these symptoms, and I'm getting these search results that say multiple sclerosis and stroke and other things like that. And now I'm thinking, okay, do I have MS? I have like the risk factors for it. I have other autoimmune conditions. I have, this, and this. And I'm like, okay, I need to go to the doctor and get this checked out. But again, I'm not really as concerned as I should be at this point in hindsight. But again, you live and you learn. So I guess another week goes by. And at this point, this is where things really start to take a turn in hindsight. So I've noticed that my ability to move my muscles and just go about my day to day activities are becoming altered. And what I mean by altered is, when I try to take a step, I'd noticed that, for example, I got out of the bed one morning and I stood up and I took one step and I felt my right leg give out. And I didn't really think anything of it because, again, I've never had Guillain Barre before. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know the symptoms. And so I'm continuing to move on, which again, I don't recommend you do this. If you have any of these symptoms, if you have any doubt, just go get treatment, go get the care that you need. But anyway, I noticed that my leg gave out, and I was like, that's kind of odd. But here I am just thinking, well, maybe I just stepped out of the bed the wrong way. And I went on about my day. And so maybe about another few days go by, and I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm just in intense pain. I'm so hot. I feel like I'm about to just pass out. And I just get up out of the bed and I run outside because I'm so hot. I mean, it was the middle of the winter and I was so hot. I just went outside to stand outside, and it felt like my breathing just started to get labored, and I was really, really panicking. Um, and at that point, I just thought my blood sugar was really low or something like that. Again, I'm not thinking that this is something that I need to get treatment for immediately, which it was. But here again, these are some of the things that happen when you don't know what you're looking for. You just think, oh, this is just might be something that'll just go away. But, I finally went to the doctor because all of these events just kept happening and happening. And I was like, all right, that's it, no more. I'm just going to go to the doctor and get checked out. So I go to the doctor the first time. And at this point, when I'm actually going to the doctor, my ability to move my muscles has gotten really worse. I'm kind of starting to struggle to walk. It's kind of hard for me to lift my legs. I'm losing strength. And at this point, the doctors are evaluating me and they're telling me, okay, yeah, we see that you are having trouble with moving your muscles, but for some reason they diagnosed me with sciatica. I don't know. Anyway, I am given steroids for the sciatica and also given muscle relaxers for the sciatica, and I'm sent home. I guess maybe another week goes by and I've really gotten worse. And at this point, my wife is like, we got to do something because you're going down. And at this point, my breathing is become affected. um I can literally feel my diaphragm moving on its own, which in hindsight that was just the nerves in my diaphragm being affected by Guillain Barre. Because essentially, if you don't know what Guillain Barre is, it literally damages your nerves and disrupts the signal. So basically, your muscles can't get a signal from your nerves. And with that being said, you cannot use your muscles at all. So that's what's happening. Um, and at that point, if you let it get to an, an endpoint to where you don't get treatment in time, it could really, really end bad. And I hate to say that. But luckily, I was able to get the treatment that I needed in time, literally in the nick of time. My wife got me to the hospital because she was fed up of seeing me just struggle to walk, struggle to get around. I, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was at my mother-in-law's house, and I had to walk up steps to get inside her house, and we were scheduled to eat dinner at her house on that Sunday. So, we got to her house. Um, I struggled to get out of the car. Took me several minutes just to get to the steps, which that's like a 5-second walk um, under normal circumstances. But when I tried to actually lift my legs to climb the steps, I just could not do it, and I just got so frustrated. And it was at that point my wife said, "That's it. I'm taking you to the emergency room right now." And I'm so thankful that she did that because when I got to the emergency room, things really started getting bad for me. Um, at that point, when I was at the emergency room, I just thought that, okay, they're gonna tell me I have like MS or something, and I'll just get the treatment that I need and they'll send me home. Well, they did some testing. They held me there for about a few hours, and the doctor comes in and he's like, okay, we need to keep you because I suspect that you have Guillain Barre. And when he said keep you, automatically I said, whoa, what's going on? Like, this is serious now. Um, and what's Guillain Barre? And at that point, he said they'll explain everything to me later. They were going to get a neurologist to come in and talk to me and all of these things. And it was just really, really stressful at that point, knowing that this is something serious that I'm really going to have to be admitted to the hospital for. So um, eventually, I was admitted. Uh, and I was kind of in the dark for a while, for at least like the first day or so. Um, if you've never been admitted to the hospital, um, first of all, be thankful. Second of all, there's really so much going on. When you get admitted, you're having so many tests run on you. Um, like I was getting blood taken from me. Like I was surprised that I was even still alive. That's how much blood I was getting taken from me, like on a round the clock basis. Um, I really was not able to sleep at all because they were continuously coming in to check my vitals and everything like that. Um, there is one test that I took. It was called creatine kinase, if I'm saying that correctly. My number on that one, if I recall correctly, it was about 500, maybe somewhere around there, and that is very abnormal. That number should never be that high, and I believe that's the test that really led them to believe that I had some kind of muscle damage occurring. And so there's several other tests that they ran on me. I ended up having to do a lumbar puncture, and that was not fun at all. Basically, they had to grab some fluid from my spine, and I don't know the details behind how they medically assess whatever's in the fluid, but they found something in the fluid that pretty much pointed to Guillain Barre, and so that's how they were able to confirm the diagnosis with that. Um, so after that was confirmed, they immediately started me on the treatment for it. That treatment was IVIG, and that's just basically an infusion. So the standard IVIG infusion for Guillain Barre, mine was actually for 5 days, and so it's like they connect you to a slow drip IV. It's basically someone else's antibodies, and those antibodies pretty much just kill the bad antibodies that are damaging your nerves. So you're hooked up to a really slow drip. Um, a lot of bad side effects from the IVIG. In my case, I'm not sure if this is standard for everyone else, but in what I've experienced, it was terrible. I had really bad headaches. I was really nauseous. My neurologist did prescribe me Benadryl just to get ahead of the nausea before the drip was started each day. And also, I believe it was Tylenol. But again, it was just a very trying time for me. Mentally, it was hard being in the hospital, not knowing that 100% I'd be okay. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to walk again. I was just really, really in a bad place. So those 5 days went by of me getting the IVIG, and I was in the hospital. The food was terrible. I mean, the nurses are coming in around the clock. I'm unable to get any sleep. By the way, I'm not mad at the nurses at all. They're just doing their job. But at the same time, it's hard to get any sleep when you're constantly, being awakened. Um, Another thing that I wanted to note is that Guillain Barre definitely affects your digestive system as well. One of the things that they made me do was actually use the bathroom, and I couldn't leave until I did that. And I literally couldn't do it. And it took me like a couple of days after the IVIG for me to actually do it, because with those antibodies kicking in, I was, getting rid of the bad antibodies that were causing damage. So it was terrible for me. But the good thing about it was, in my case, the prognosis was pretty good. They were saying that I was expected to make a full recovery because I got treatment that I needed in time. Um, I never got to the point where, the Guillain Barre affected my breathing to the point where they needed to put me on a breathing tube or anything like that. Um, which I'm so thankful for, because it was just so much to deal with. Um, but after I was discharged, I had to do physical therapy for a little while. I think it was about a week, and then after that, I just didn't go back because, for one, I'm a gym guy, and you know, I know my body, and because I felt myself getting better day by day, I was able to kind of move my muscles a little bit better than I did the day before. I knew my body was on the right track to healing itself. And so, with that being said, I just, stayed active within the realm of what I could do while my body was healing itself. Because at the end of the day, um, the occupational therapists and the physical therapists within the hospital, they give you exercises and things like that to do, um, before you are discharged anyway. And so I was doing those on my own. So I felt there was no need for me to go to physical therapy and pretty much have them tell me the same thing when I can do it myself. But I'm very thankful that things worked out. Um, but this is just an inspiration video for anyone who's ever been through Guillain Barre. I know exactly what you've been through. It's one of the toughest things that could ever happen to you. But it's very unfortunate that something like that can happen, and it could happen so quickly. But if you all have any questions or anything you want to ask me about the condition, if you're going through it right now, just reach out to me in the comments, and I'll definitely be able to, engage with you all on that. But best wishes to anyone who's dealing with this right now, and best wishes to everyone who's dealt with it in the past. Hopefully, this thing will stay away. They said that I should not experience this again. It was just kind of like one of those one-off situations. But, again, I'm just very thankful to be here. So I look forward to speaking with you all in the comments. Thank you for watching.